violence, extremist activity, and what exactly is going wrong and why, so that we can make sure that across society we take the action that is needed to keep our children safe.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Home Secretary has told us that last year alone 162 people have been referred to prevent over concerns relating to school massacres. A truly shocking and disturbing figure. So could the Home Secretary please tell us how many of these people are currently in detention?
Home Secretary.
Well, he will know that the referral to prevent can be for young people who may have expressed an interest in school massacre, as opposed to those who have yet committed a crime. But the point of the Prevent programme is to try and get early intervention to take action to prevent young people committing crime. My view is that the powers are currently not strong enough to prevent young people committing crimes or getting drawn into this extremist violence, and that is exactly why we need to introduce the Youth Diversion Order. That is a stronger power for the police to be able to take action in these extremely serious cases.
Mike Tapp.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's important to note that this attacker is a terrorist. He's been charged under the Terrorism Act and the Biological Weapons Act. The man is a terrorist, Mr Speaker. The attack itself has not been labelled as terrorism due to the lack of a clear ideological motive, a decision for the police and the CPS. Will the Home Office look into how our legal frameworks can be updated to recognise the full horror of acts intended to terrorise?
Home Secretary.
My honourable friend is right. We do need to ensure that the legal framework is up to date to make sure that there is the scope and the powers and the sentencing, frankly, as well, to ensure that where there are acts intended to terrorise, even where there is no ideology, that there are sufficient powers in place to be able to deal with this. And he is also right to say that because this man has been charged under the Terrorism Act and has pleaded guilty to a terrorist offence, I can confirm he will be treated as a terrorist offender in prison as well.
Dr Andrew Murison.
Madam Deputy Speaker, if the authorities remain silent, then bad people will write the script. On the 16th of October 2021, those authorities and then their political masters were frank about what had happened the previous day in Southend, and there were no riots. Why is that different to this?
Home Secretary.
Well, I would say to the honourable member, in the case that he refers to, the attack on Sir David Amess, who I regard as a friend, and I know he does as well, was a great loss to this House, the government did not publish crucial information, for example, around the Prevent referral that had taken place. There was a lot of information that was not provided until the trial, and in fact this government is going further in providing information after the trial than was provided in that case as well. And I also don't think that anyone should attempt to excuse people who threw bricks and rocks at police officers as being somehow something to do with what information that they were provided and when. They committed crimes. They need to take responsibility for those crimes as well.
Gregor Poynton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We've heard from Merseyside Police, the CPS and Counter-Terrorism Police about the wide range of violent content that the accused was accessing. That included genocide and also social media searches for violent, fatal stabbings. Now, I know the Home Secretary has covered some of this in her statement and previous questions, but can I ask her what more should the social media and search engine giants be doing? Firstly, to stopping our young people accessing this content in the first place, and secondly, once they're being made aware of it, taking it down quickly from their sites.
So I think that my friend makes a really important point, because the thing about the social media companies is they have incredibly sophisticated technology and resources. These are the social media companies that know exactly how to target every single one of us on things that we might be interested online, and to use their algorithms in all kinds of sophisticated ways. They have the capability to do far more to identify this dangerous content and to take action on it. And I do believe that they should use those responsibilities rather than rowing back from content moderation, rather than reducing the responsible action that they need to take.
Saoirse Eastwood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the Home Secretary for your statement today, and indeed constituents across Lagan Valley are sending their thoughts and prayers to not just the families of Elsie, Alice and Baby, but indeed the community of Southport. Something that has deeply concerned me for a long time is indeed this radicalisation, particularly of young people, and you have explicitly stated that in your statement today, that it is an online surge of young people becoming radicalised, also including young people that are interested and looking at particular violent content against women and other sorts of terror linked. I would want to understand how the Home Secretary sees the lack of an ideology being captured in a way that it means that we can actually identify these potential perpetrators, and also in terms of actually the laws that we can make in this House to stop social media companies not only profiting but actually being aware of this violent and terrorist content that is online.
The honourable member is right to raise this. The director of NI5 has talked about how the security services are seeing far too many cases with very young people being drawn into poisonous online extremism, and 13% of all of those investigated for involvement in UK terrorism now under 18. That is a disturbing fact for all of us. And she's right too that this needs to look at the complexity of, there are some young people who become radicalised around an ideology early on. There are others who become obsessed with violence. There are others who may switch between different extreme ideas and perspectives. But the point is that all of them are at risk of becoming dangerous to communities if they get drawn down this extremist track and their ideas get poisoned in this way by things that they see online. That is why it's so important, and that's why it's a central part of the inquiry.
Josh Simons.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Home Secretary for updating the House and welcome the uncompromising inquiry that she and the Prime Minister have announced. I'd also like to ask about social media and the digital information environment. I used to work in a technology company for a long period of time, and I totally concur with the Home Secretary's comments. They know what's circulating online. They know what's getting virality. So I'd like to ask the Home Secretary whether, after the summer, she feels that she and the Prime Minister have the information that they need in order to make decisions in real time to secure our information online environment.
Home Secretary.
So the honourable member makes an important point. I don't think that anyone would suggest that in the end, ministers are in a position to make decisions on individual cases. What we need is the right kind of framework in place. Clearly, the Online Safety Act will put new structures and systems in place. The Prime Minister has made clear this morning that we should not shy away from taking any further action that is needed in order to address this, because fundamentally, if this is impacting on the safety of our children, we do need to act.
Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Prime Minister's denial in August that Rudy Cabana was being investigated for offences under the Terrorism Act didn't protect the trial, because we found out these facts anyway when Rudy Cabana was charged in October. And the same disclosure didn't cause other trials, such as that of the Parsons Green tube bomber, to fail before. I'm not talking about the details of prevent referrals, which the Home Secretary has used in answers to similar questions, but of the information that was disclosed in October. If a jury knew that before the trial, why couldn't the Prime Minister have told the country the truth in August?
Home Secretary.
Well, the honourable member will know that the investigation is carried out by the police. The Crown Prosecution Service decide what charges to lay, and also decide, based on the evidence that they have gathered, how and when those charges should be laid. That is the British justice system that we have. It is the decisions made by police, it's decisions made by the prosecutors. They are rightly independent of ministers, and to be honest, I strongly believe, as part of our British judicial tradition, that independence must continue.
Conor Naismith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. From everything we have heard so far, the murderer in Southport was someone with a history of violence and a fascination with violence, and someone who was just 17 years old. at the time of this horrific attack. There